welcome everybody. It's great to see you guys.
Welcome,
And
welcome.
I hope everyone's staying safe. It's already December, which is nuts, which is crazy. Happy holidays, everybody. Hope you guys are staying safe. Hope you guys are healthy and wearing masks, and for people in California, staying in. Yeah, thank you for coming. This is our making of panel of Canvas, and which premiered on Netflix today, which is dope. And congratulations, you guys.
Thank
Frank
you.
and Paige.
Thank you.
I mean, I did the ugly cry when I saw it. I'm not gonna. And you know, as a filmmaker, I just want to commend you, because to me, like when I'm making something and there's a moment where you want people to cry, I'm like, we're gonna make them cry, and you did it. Well done. It was so beautiful, so moving. I get emotional just thinking about it. Okay.
And it was beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful work. So introductions for our panelists today. Frank Abney. You guys have heard of Frank Abney. He's the writer and director on Canvas. So Frank graduated from the Art Institute of California in San Francisco, which I had no idea. That's awesome, man. Art Institute as well. After which he began working as an animator in games industries, film and TV projects like Tomb Raider, Frozen. You guys heard of Frozen? Big Hero 6, Kung Fu Panda 3, and Boss Baby. After which Frank joined Pixar, where he collaborated on Coco. That makes me cry every time. Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4, and the upcoming Soul. Pew, pew, pew. That was my air horn. Frank recently executive produced the Academy Award-winning short Hair Love, which won last year, which is dope. And is currently directing an animated feature film at Netflix. So thank you,
Very
Frank.
exciting.
I've never met you before, but thank you for coming on our panel.
Never ever.
Yeah, never. We've never met. This is the first time. And then Paige Johnstone, producer of Canvas. Paige, thank you for coming and joining this panel. Paige has worked in animation since 2015. You're new.
I'm new. Yeah.
You're relatively new.
Awesome. That's
It's
gonna
not
be
that
great
long.
for people to hear. You know. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And Paige has production credits at both DreamWorks and Pixar Animation Studios. As a producer, Paige focuses on, this is great, focusing on creating meaningful content that can inspire others to see themselves on screen and behind the lens as well. In addition to working on Pixar's Soul, which we're all looking forward to, Paige produced Canvas. Amazing. Congratulations again. And then is currently working in development on an animated series, Georgia and the Singing Mountain. Looking forward to it. So.
And that's independent people. So this is really good to be, you know, you're seeing all sides. So it's very exciting.
Yeah. So welcome, Paige. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Paige and I actually, I still remember when she joined us on the animation side on Boss Baby, because were you working in HR first, or
Yes, I was in HR first at DreamWorks and was affectionately known as HR Paige. And when I came to animation, I had several people be like, "Oh, you're HR Paige.
Man.
What are you doing here?"
What's funny is in animation we do that. We'll say, "Oh, you know, Monica is Stacy on da da da," and they're like, "Oh, okay." That's how they get to know the positions. So I think you worked with Stacy Moreno, right, at DreamWorks, or no? Do you remember Stacy?
No, I don't think. Maybe we weren't there at the same time.
Maybe Darcy, her sister, Darcy. Yeah.
Zalvin?
It could have also been Salvin, but it was also DreamWorks
Yeah.
really big, so you might have been in a different area. You know, you never know, like, right?
Yeah, I was like in the benefits area with like Michelle Davis and a few other people there.
That's a fun area.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the production side. No longer HR Page.
No, officially production page, I think.
You get that alliteration now.
Yeah. That's why I did it.
Yeah. So let's get into it, guys. Let's dig our heels in. In the beginning, you know, Frank, what inspired you to make Canvas in the first place?
So Canvas, there's probably, so Canvas started 6 years ago, but some years before that, it was actually, I was thinking about what to do, just kind of having a rough time, kind of navigating the industry. I was, you hit those rough patches sometimes creatively where, I'm animating on stuff, but, the ultimate goal being, wanting to create my own stuff. And then, but, the struggles of pushing through the industry, sometimes that can weigh down on you, and you kind of question your own place within the industry. And so I was kind of in that mode. And, but I was around my niece a lot around that time, when she was younger. And just kind of seeing how she and just kids in general kind of navigate the world. It's they don't have those burdens of adulthood on their shoulders yet, or jaded by the world yet. Yeah, so it's kind of I was inspired by that. Just kind of taking a second to just watch and observe that, just from an animator standpoint, but also, just on the humanity side. And so it was nice kind of coming back to that kid in me, and helping to kind of break those things that I don't need to be worrying about off of my shoulders, not lugging that weight with me. And I was inspired to create something again, just kind of get back into that mode, like, yeah, I need to do this now. And fast forward to 6 years ago, I was trying to come up with something I wanted to do, and I knew it had to be something personal. So one of the things that I dealt with that still comes up now is, you guys know that, I talked about the losing my dad when I was 5. And so
It's got a little one.
Sorry, my kids are near. Yeah, so 6 years ago, I was wanting to create something personal. So with the death of my father when I was little, that's something that has continued to come up, even now. And so also watching how my mom kind of navigated that situation. And there were these artistic endeavors that she would have. She would doodle, when she's on the phone, and I would look at it, and it was actually pretty good. And she participated in, like, I remember she participated in a play, and like there's these things that I was like, I wondered about that, if there was something that maybe was lost, when my dad passed. And same thing with my grandpa, who was always very quiet and, stoic guy. I remember seeing him smile maybe once when I was a kid, like, and it was, I still remember it too. We were at a park throwing stuff in, and throwing bread for pigeons and stuff, and he said something about asking if you want to feed pigeons to the bread. Like he flipped the words, and I laughed, and I remember seeing him smile, and I was like, that always stood out to me, because I was like one of the few times that I had seen him light up like that. And so, wondering about that backstory as well, and just thinking about all these things together, you kind of Canvas started to kind of take shape with his grandfather, going through this loss and losing a piece of himself, and trying to get it back, with a child being the catalyst for him facing this loss. So.
Right. Yeah.
I just get all welled up with tears every time it just starts. I just go like this, because I think so many of us can relate, whether we're artists ourselves, children of artists. I think about my mother, who's an artist, and my stepfather, who's really like a father. He raised me since I was 18, and you know, I think about them getting older and the whole paintbrush, and it's just very, it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you.
You know, you talked about what inspired you, and you talked about there was kind of some bumps. Were any of those bumps art related, like career related? Do you feel like there's anything in there that you want to kind of talk about, since I feel like so many of our community kind of, you know, just to, I mean, I'm not trying to dig in your business, but in a way.
No, that's good.
If it gives them some hope.
Yeah, I think both Paige and I could probably speak to the struggle. You know, you have a place of where you want to get to, but you know, there's gatekeepers there. There's people that kind of like you don't want your destiny to be controlled by someone else, but the reality is, you know, sometimes that is the case. And so you want to do something, you have ambition to do stuff, but you know, sometimes you know, that ambition can be misinterpreted into, like, our one experience was like, you know, it seemed like, you know, they felt like I wasn't appreciating my role, or like, you know, there are these it's like, no, I want to do more, like, it, you know, it's and so, and it was like, well, what am I doing? How am I supposed to get to where I want to be if I'm gonna have to keep going through this same kind of cycle just to grow? And so what came out of that was like, okay, well, you know, it's gonna probably take a while, but you know, maybe we just gotta do something outside of work, like the stuff that you don't get to do at work, create for yourself to do outside.
That is very important. I mean, we talk to people a lot about, like, sometimes your day job is what's paying, you know, your rent, and the passion projects are things you do on your spare time.
Right. And you talked about in that Variety article, Frank, about representation and just representation and sort of like putting Black characters on screen. And I know, Paige, from, you know, reading what your ambitions are, it's the same thing, right? It's the same sort of like coming up in the game and sort of seeing, you don't necessarily see like all of that representation coming up in the game, right? But, you know, your ambition to put that up front and center. Can you talk a little bit about that, like, Paige?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like one of the reasons Frank and I connected is because we've had similar maybe frustrations and similar experiences, like in the animation industry, and especially like there are like a handful of animated movies or shows that I can think of that feature diverse casts, and specifically that feature Black characters, and so I think especially with this project, like we were I mean, obviously, like, that decision had been made before I came on, you know, this is all Frank's story, but I really invested in it because of that reason, not only because of the story, but because I think it's incredibly important to, like, see yourself on screen. Like, every time I talk about it, I think back to when I was a kid and I was dressing up like Disney princesses, and none of them looked like me, you know, like I dressed up as Meg from Hercules, or, you know, The Little Mermaid, and they didn't look like me. And that's a big, I don't want that to be the trend moving forward, you know, like I see Frank's daughter in his lap, and she should have people she relates to. I have 2 small nieces now, and I want them to have people they relate to, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I will tell you, that was the reason why I pushed so hard to be on Princess and the Frog, because that was our first Black princess, and I was like, I have to be on this movie and be a part of it, so we need to do it. But, you know, it's not the end. It was just one thing trying to get into the Disney. And so I feel like what, you know, I mean, trying to get a different princess, so we were covering everybody. But you're right, you know, you mentioned Frank's little girl, and yes, we need to see ourselves always. Love that. So how exactly did you guys kind of meet and start working? Can we kind of get a little bit of behind the scenes on that?
Yeah. So we met at DreamWorks. So on the Boss Baby. I remember. I was just telling Paige about this recently too. yeah, I remember being walked around to our desks, being introduced like she was joining the production team, you know, for our animation. So that's where we met, and then you know, fast forward to many check-ins on if my shots are done later. I go.
That's how it is. But wait, hold
Yeah.
on. What was your role? Were you a chord or production supervisor or?
I was a PA.
Okay, great.
I think.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I thought it might be something like that because I mean, I started as a PA as well. So you know, you have to move. Sometimes you have to move laterally or back a step to take a step forward. So awesome. So you're a PA in animation, asking him, "How's your shot coming?"
Yeah.
How's your shot coming?
So,
we have this fix on your shot. Can we extend you like 3 more weeks? Yeah. Frank is great.
Yeah. And yeah, from there, I went to Pixar, and then yeah, like probably was it like maybe a month or a few weeks? Like, there was a opening, and next thing I hear, you know, Paige was hired, and we worked on Coco together. So then, you know, just having those experiences and seeing how she worked with the animation team, and how on top of everything she was, like, you know, when it came to, you know, the need of a producer on canvas, it was like, you know, there was no question about it. You know, it was it was like, well, yeah, no real thought involved as needed.
I just told Frank we were a package deal. After I followed him to Pixar, I was like, well, you're stuck with me now.
Wise woman.
Well, this being kind of, you know, kind of like off Pixar, off Disney, like project, and, you know, a labor of love that's being done on everyone's spare time. I mean, what was production like, and how did you guys even manage to get it done, you know, on this kind of off hours, remote sort of approach?
Yeah, we were remote before it was a thing. We were remote.
Yeah, everybody was working at home already, or I mean, yeah, there was one person, Watkins, who did our 2D paint work. I think they had just graduated.
Right.
We were just telling this story the other day, like, you know, most people were already working, but you know, with wanting to bring up other talent, and not like, it wasn't necessarily a thing where we, you know, people had to have previous experience. It was like whoever's work was good was like, you know, right. That was it. And this person, we happened to see their work online. I found their phone number and just called them and asked if they wanted to be a part of it. And you know, it was always a weird thing when it got to how we're actually making it, because we didn't really have a pipeline or anything.
Yeah.
And it was like whole Google Drive, and
yeah, you guys were doing the virtual pipeline before COVID even hit.
Yeah.
So when COVID hit, you're like, we got this. We've been doing this for like 2 years.
Yeah, we essentially didn't have to change anything when COVID hit, except it was around that time, I think our final mix was scheduled like a few days after the first quarantine time. So that was kind of rough. But we got it done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The uncertainty of it all, like, but I think with everyone at Skywalker being so amazing at what they do, like, it was, you know, the trust was already there. So it was like, yeah, we don't need to be there. Like, they worked it out, so like they could have, like, you know, one person there, you know, we can give them notes and stuff, and they deliver back to us, and then we check it out and, you know, give notes. So we worked it out. But it was a little nerve-wracking when that came up, because we were like, yeah, when are they going to be allowed in the building? And then these big studio movies are probably going to get first dibs when they do open. So, you know, like, the other films that were already prepared to go in. And yeah, but
right.
yeah.
Were you gonna say, Mom?
No, I wasn't. Sorry. Computer's making noises. Sorry.
No. It's okay. So, I mean, like, you guys got it done, and it's out on Netflix, which is crazy. I mean, like, remember Frank telling me about this film?
I'm still trying to come to grips with it.
I was gonna say, I remember Frank telling me about this film too.
It's still really hard to believe because it's not even. It was like a little over 2 years ago. 2 years ago when Netflix first like reached out showing interest in just the characters when I released the characters on Twitter and Instagram. It was one of those things where it was like, just seems like something that we should support kind of thing. And Paige and I made some trips over to Netflix, just showing them some stuff, just keeping in touch, and ended up working out. And
do you think this is like and I'm just wondering out loud for myself too, that's a great move, because like that's Netflix's stake in the ground of telling more diverse and inclusive stories, right? To me, that's what that means. I mean, just kind of like making a legit investment on like future filmmakers, diverse and inclusive filmmakers, and storytelling.
Yeah.
So
they're very dedicated to it on both sides. I can say that from my live action experience with them. They were very, very cognizant of that. And clearly with animation, to your point, Bobby, it's like not just the filmmakers, behind the scenes, with people in front of, and the subject matter.
That's one thing I've appreciated.
Shout out to Netflix. They're not paying for this.
A lot. Yeah. They're not paying me to say anything about them, but it's like, it's a the culture there in terms of filmmakers and filmmaking there is very for one, creator driven, but also just the diversity in stories. They know the power in telling stories for not just one audience. If you think of a streaming platform, they have the beauty of not having to cater to one audience. It's like the world is their audience. So why would you want to miss out on any part of that? So and it doesn't even just come from a business standpoint. Like, there's some real great people there behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When the two of you came together, was a lot done so far, or did you get all the production kind of going once you were already working together? Or was there some stuff going, and Paige, then you came on, and we're just really curious to know, like, you're working on this labor of love during your spare time. What is that production look like?
Yeah. I think when I came on, it was after Frank had posted those images of the grandfather, and I think all the character designs were done, and there was still some stuff happening, rigging, and but Frank had started. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we had started working on the trailer at this point, right?
Yeah,
I want to say yes.
I think we had a story reel together for the film already. So the story reel, storyboarding was done. I mean, even though things ended up changing later, but there's a story reel. But then we, when it got to talking about how is this going to be paid for, that's when we started, getting the idea that we needed probably do a teaser for the Kickstarter, because you could just do a Kickstarter, but it was a better idea to just put something out there so people actually know what they're contributing to, and not just explain what I can do here, and it's like,
Cool.
let me show you, and
I'll never forget. I'll never forget. So my husband was like, "Oh, we've got to give money to this. Have you seen it?" And I was like, "What's Frank doing?" So I was like, "Oh, okay. Yes." He was very. I was like, and that was like one of the first. I mean, maybe I don't know if we did anything for Hair Love or not at the time, but I do. You were executive producing that, so maybe that was as well. But I just remember that being not a new thing, because I've known other producers that have done that, but not something that we had the ability to really contribute to. It kind of happened, and I was like, "Oh, you did that?" So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was.
I feel like the teaser. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I feel like the teaser was helpful in so many ways with production moving forward too, because we just learned a lot from it. Like all those, early mistakes you usually make in a film where you're like, oh, this is gonna break. Didn't know about that. Like we learned pretty much all of that in the teaser. So it was actually pretty beneficial to do. And I'll say I was against it for a second, but Frank pleaded his case, and it was a good case, and I'm really happy we did it.
And how did you coordinate with, like, were people kind of scattered all throughout the universe? You know what I mean? Or like, how did you work remotely with all these folks? And were you gathering everything in? Were there people in different areas, or did it all come through you? Because that's a lot to manage.
It was all through us. It was like we had so I got one. I tried to keep some of these roles like to just maybe one person if they could handle the load, just to just so it's easier to manage on us. So we had one person do the environment, one person textured it. I did the animation for the whole teaser, and then one person did all the lighting and rendering for the teaser, and so we did that all through all in Google Drive. So we used the backup in sync, so you can sync your Google Drive folders to each other's computers. So yeah, that was great. It was kind of like being at work where you have kind of a
network.
Like a check-in check-out system, but they have versions where if you save over, then it's another version. And, so it worked out. But the challenges that came up, though, like Paige was saying, there were a lot of things we learned that would break, like the hair, because I was on a Mac. I was the only one on a Mac, and the path was slightly different on a Mac than it is on Windows. Like instead of like Google Drive, one word, all lowercase, it was Google Space Drive with a capital G and a capital D, and that would break something.
Oh, on the Mac, it was with a space. You have to do an underscore because it breaks it on the PC side.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. And so we were like, why is the hair rendering?
It was a whole thing.
I'm really glad you said that, because you just vindicated me, because all the time my husband's like, why are you putting underscores? And I'm like, it's a good habit. It doesn't matter if we're on a Mac. What if I'm sharing with someone who isn't?
Right.
So
it's true. We learned our lesson.
Yeah, and plus the teaser was like a little over a minute, so it was like its own kind of like mini short film.
Yeah.
So we got a little taste of what it would be like.
Yeah, and I think the teaser took us like 7 or 8 months.
Yeah,
I want to say it was like it was good though. It's like then we were able to like reuse, obviously the characters are the same and some of the environments. So
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, and then where are we, Mon? In this bit,
I didn't see the question about how did you guys complete the film remotely, but I just started asking that. But
that was good. That was good. So I can ask this next one. For you guys, you guys did it independent, and that's an inspiration to everybody. Trying to make short films and kind of like have it be seen. But what do you guys think is the most gratifying experience so far? Or so far, working on Canvas?
Start, please.
Oh, yeah. What has been the most gratifying experience working on Canvas, up to this?
What do you feel like up to this point, like what was like the most gratifying piece
Yep.
so far, because there'll be other moments, right? Like everybody's seen it like we have and had the ugly cry. Like, what else?
You want to start, Paige?
Oh, okay.
I'm letting you start so I can try to think.
Yeah. Like, what
You
was the
doing
most
that?
gratifying thing about like working on the movie, or like just in
guess
terms of
Yeah,
the whole
your
experience.
biggest win,
on
Paige.
this movie?
When
Yeah.
you had your day, you saw that, and you went home, and you
It
went to sleep like,
Yeah.
this is
It might have been finishing it for you. It may have been like, like there's that moment where you're like, I did it, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think like as a producer, you're just always like looking outwards and seeing, the future and the finish line. So I don't think there was like so many big milestones to where like people would be like, yeah, we did it, congratulations. And I was like, okay, but yeah, we've still got like, this many things to do. And I think today was a really, really big, moment. And it felt really gratifying. I saw a video of my niece standing there watching it on the TV, and I like it.
Yeah.
That's okay. We need to share
That was it. But I just like had a full moment because like, her hair is natural, and she was looking at Ara, the granddaughter character, and yeah, I don't know, I just felt it in that moment.
Totally.
Yeah.
awesome.
Those images are like that. I think that's what does it, I think, because you see something that you spent all this time on, and people experiencing it and getting something out of it, like, because I think that's the whole goal with creating something like this. Like, there's so much bullshit in the world, basically, like, and it's like you can put something positive into it, so you can get somebody to have an experience that can block out all that shit, even if it's just for 9 minutes. Like, that's huge. And I'd say the same thing, like with my daughter, similar experience. Like the first time I showed my kids like the final version, and they watched it, and the second time I'm showing it to I'm playing it again just to check for something, and then as soon as like the paintbrush happens and the audio is going, and my daughter turns and looks at me like she's like excited to see it, and I'm like, oh my god. Just it was yeah, it's a heartwarming experience.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What advice would you guys have for anyone looking to make their own short film? And I know that's a hard question because there's so many different facets, but I guess based on your experience, like you talked about, you had started in HR and you went to become a production assistant, and you were making your way up through production. And, Frank, you had your bumps with getting into where you wanted to be and being doing what you wanted, your truth, and, not having gatekeepers. So if you're someone's like, okay, I don't know, is there any advice?
Yeah. You want to go, Paige?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's a long road. Like, don't give up just because things are tough, and just because you'll always have moments where you feel like you're hitting a wall and you're not having enough traction. So just don't give up in those moments. Like, keep fighting for it. And if you have a story to tell, like, there are so many ways to get it out there, and there are so many talented people in the world. So look out for the talented people too, and don't as Frank was saying earlier, like, it's so important to like give people a chance to show them what you can do, and to be able to like show what they can do. So even if like folks are new and you're trying to like hit your deadlines or whatever, like, I think it's so important to like give people that chance to like to show you what they can bring to your project. And that I mean has helped us in Canvas tons. Like Frank was saying, you know, like we had someone straight out of college and they just completely delivered, you know.
I think that's what makes a great producer and a director. And clearly you guys are a great team because you're allowing people to shine and do their best work. And that means you're not micromanaging. So it's a great, you know, in a way that's what's not being said, but that is what the result is. So congratulations. Yeah. What about you, Frank? What do you think? What advice would you give?
I'd have to just echo what Paige was saying, and probably just add that find a way to make it happen, because and it's tough. Like it's tough. Like you when you're starting, it's like the blank page syndrome. Like that you don't know where to start, where to go, and it's like just, I guess, you know, once you find that starting place, find every avenue possible. Like I think of when I went to college, and you know, the first college I went to not being quite what I had in mind, and then getting prepared to transfer over to where I ended up getting my degree, and I was like, okay, well, we're gonna be learning Maya and stuff, and so I bought the software early so I can try to learn it or get some kind of leg up, because I felt like I wasted so much time being at this other school that wasn't what I needed. And so, you know, I remember opening Maya the first time, and I'm like, and I'm like, I don't even know where to. And so, you know, it used to come with this thick book, you know, and I just went through each lesson and went through the whole book, learning in it, and it did give me that leg up when I started in college. So it was like, you know, I could have just closed and was like, okay, I'll wait until I go to college and someone can teach me. But I think that's just kind of how I am, like, not wanting to wait for someone to, I guess, do something for you. So, you know, when it comes to making a short, it's like, okay, if you have the idea, even if you don't have the means to getting any artwork there, write it. And like, you know, you pen paper or type it up, whatever, put it in an email draft and save it. Like,
do what you can.
Type it up. Yeah, use what you have at your disposal, and then, you know, because I think, you know, with Canvas, like with the the shoestring budget we had, you know, that there is no way, if we didn't think that way, like that we would have been able to have it come out how it did, if we didn't, like, you know, try to find those ways of, like, you know, using whatever we had at our disposal. We reused stuff from the teaser. We pulled assets from the teaser. That whole environment we used, like, you know, it was
we
like,
got creative.
Yeah.
And you have to, and know that we do that on big features, right, as well.
Right. Yeah. So many reused assets.
Assets. We reuse assets from movie to movie sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Slap a new surface on there, you're good to go.
Yeah. Finding, it's just like identifying your strengths, even when you feel like there aren't any. It's like there has to be something, you know, just finding those avenues, you know. Yeah.
That's awesome. Great.
Find a way.
So you want to go with the next question, Bobby?
Yeah. So the last question that we had for our instructor was, what's next for you both? We kind of mentioned it in the beginning, and you know, what's next for you both, but also kind of what I love to know is, like, what are your aspirations, you know, for the future of your career, Paige and Frank? Just kind of like, what do you wake up in the morning going, this is what I want, you know, and then I want to spend the rest of, you know, 2020 or like 20 years doing? Like, do you guys have anything that you can share in terms of kind of ambition?
You want to start, Paige?
Like I can see she's got something.
Yeah,
She's
She
was like,
do it.
she's got it.
No, I was just thinking, I was texting Frank the other day, and we were signing a form, and I saw my name on there as a producer, like it's a Paige Johnstone producer, and all of a sudden it just made, like, I know I've been producing this film for the last, 2.5 years. I know I've been in production management for the last 5 years, but it just clicked in that moment. I was like, no, this is it. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I hope to keep growing in that. I definitely am, starting on a couple new projects. So I love making shorts. Like, it's what I always dreamed of doing. So this is like literally a dream come true, seeing Canvas on screen. So I hope I keep growing from here.
But even Paige, what I loved about what you sent us to, just kind of your ambition of just kind of like propping up and bringing up like underrepresented voices like in animation space, and I relate to that because that's my MO as well. So I mean, talk about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like we were saying, like, one of the greatest things about Canvas was that we were so kind of flexible with people, and we didn't have like, oh no, you can't work on it, you don't have enough experience or anything like that. And it's the same with the projects I'm working on now. Is another project, me and another person we're working on, like, we're reaching out to new people, just seeing their stuff on Instagram and saying like, hey, like, would you be interested in working with us, or do you, like, what are you up to? Just, I think that's important. And it's on another note, like, you see so few people of color in leadership that it is really important to keep advocating for that and to keep bringing people up with you. And so that's something I'm super, super cognizant of. Like, I don't want to be the only Black short producer. Like, I know I'm not, and I don't think like people from underrepresented groups are highlighted enough. And I just want to keep seeing more of it. It's something I advocate for in the studio environment too, and it's important.
It's really important. I'm so glad you said that, because it's also more than just, like, to your point, like, you have the ability, when someone helps lift you up, you can bring someone else with you, that idea. Yeah. And sometimes people are looking for people in leadership roles right off the bat, but what they have to realize is you need to give some people some time. So bring them in at, even if it's entry level or a little bit higher than that, but take that risk of someone you don't know and help grow them, because that's the only way that we get to these positions.
Yeah. So I like to think of it as like, you go to, like, back in the days when we could go to concerts and like you knew that person who like could just prop the door open for you. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to prop the door open.
Yes, that's what you do. That is what you do. And wonderful. I love that. What about you? What are your aspirations, as Bobby so elegantly put it? Frank, you're doing it. I know you're directing an untitled film.
I mean, that was definitely the that aligned with what it is that I wanted to do, which was just similar to Canvas, just like telling stories that I mean, I love character-based stories that highlight a truthful experience, even if it's something that's hard to digest, just something, and something that's honest, but uplifting as well, and it's and highlights it represents people that may not always get to see themselves. That's why even though working on Coco, that wasn't my culture, it was a great experience being a part of that, and a huge highlight in my career being a part of that. And after it was over, seeing all the feedback and people that got so much out of it. I was like, yeah, more of that. More like that was it. And so
Absolutely. I mean, as a
yeah.
Hispanic Latina, like that's a big deal. I mean, even if in my country we don't do Dia de los Muertos, it was such a big, it's something we all know about. It was, yeah, absolutely. And seeing, you know, I mean, it's not to say that you don't see artists every day, but, you know, I think you think about a lot of the artists that are put out there, a lot of the great artists, a lot of them seem like they were European, or European meaning, you know, white complexion, or Italian assimilating. And to see this painter, this Black grandfather painter, is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Really,
And that was another thing too, like these putting characters out that I can identify with, you know, and not just feel like there was a diversity checkbox made where, you know, you have a character and you just slap a brown texture on them and okay, we made our we have our Black guy now. So now we can please that group and then move on to the next thing. And it's like, no, you guys, if you know, if we're gonna make a film about, you know, rats or fish or whatever, and put all this research into how these animals live and move, and the detail in their hair and all this stuff, like it's like, why do I see so many you know, Black characters that look European, or their hair is just curly, you know? It's like there's more to it than just, you know, the outside look. Like bring people in to consult with, you know, talk to people that are smarter than you about it. And that's you know, that's something that, you know, we're trying to do on this film I'm working on now, and also on canvas, like, you know, with wanting the, you know, having the live action influence, you know, for how the look or the feel of the camera was. It's like, okay, well, let's bring in someone from live action. Let's show them the film. So we got Morgan Cooper came in, did amazing short films out there. Recently, the Bel Air short, that was like, oh my God. So, you know, having him take a look at it and, you know, getting feedback on stuff we could do with camera and lighting and stuff, and, you know, just like, yeah, it's all the, I just want to grow. that's all it boils down to. Like, I want to create these things, but I want to grow and help other people grow as well, and you know, people be proud of what they work on.
It's interesting. Something you said really kind of, it's something that I was feeling for a while. I did a podcast a while back and was talking about stuff, and maybe people might have misunderstood, but what I was trying to verbalize is something you just talked about, which is when studios and filmmakers were first starting to try to think about diversity and inclusion, it became like a checkbox where it was like, okay, now we have the blah, blah, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, and I think you probably share the same feeling, that it was just kind of like, it was so kind of, what is the saying, shoehorned in?
Yeah.
Sorry, my mom would have taught me that one wrong, so I'm trying to be careful. But that's what it can feel like, you know, like, why do you have to have the 3 white people with the 1 Black friend and maybe the 1 Latino, or maybe it's like, why is it not the 4 Black friends with the 1, you know what I mean, with the 2 or whatever? It's just, I just love make a good point. And it's something that I feel like people need to be thinking about is
I think it's like, it's creating content with intention. Is like,
yes,
it's so important. Like you're saying, like, you can't just like slap a shader on and you're like, all right, they're good. They're a different race now. It's like, you have to consider every aspect of it. And, you know, like you're saying, Frank, research it in the same way like you would, you know, if the film's about rats or fish or whatever.
They're all animals, we're all humans, but we're all
right.
But we
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And like, I like what Paige was saying about you know, bringing people up with you, because I feel like, you know, in this industry, and I've experienced it, you know, as an animator too, you know, sometimes, you know, there's this feeling around that there's only room for one, you know, or there's only you know, it's like there's enough opportunity for everybody. Like, you know, you don't need to we shouldn't have to like
block other
step
people
on each other, or like, yeah, or like,
I mean,
that's why, you know.
it was very much like that for just for women, you know, coming to the table, you know, so it's not like, you know, that was another underrepresented group, right? Was the female population, no matter what background and ethnicity we were. And it was very much like that. It's like, if I'm at the table and I fought to get here and I'm not going to make it easy for you. I mean, there were people that did that to me, and it was really unfortunate. Really unfortunate.
Fortunate for them.
Well,
they didn't
I
know
know
who
that
they were
people
dealing
do
with.
that to me too. It's like,
I mean, you know,
it's
horrible.
horrible.
It's unfortunate to see them trying to do it to me, but I'm a tough broad, so you know, I didn't take
That's
it.
what I was saying. That's what I was saying.
Just elbowed them out of the way.
They didn't know who they were dealing with.
They know who they're doing. You know, and some people don't like me because of it. You know, that's why I wear that sweatshirt. But anyway, well, it's 6 o'clock and we've got some questions. There's a couple in the Q&A and there's one actually in the chat. But
yeah, let's pull.
The first one in the Q&A is her page. What does a producer do on a project like this? Which I think is an interesting question, because it's really, what does a producer do? And you do it on all projects, but this is very particular. It is a short.
No one knows. Yeah, so I think basically I kept the project on track as much as possible, and planned for how we're going to get it done is essentially, you know, what a producer does. And so, yeah, when I came on, we looked at the film and saw, you know, like what exactly we needed, you know, like how many artists we thought we wanted to bring on. Like Frank said, you know, he really wanted to keep it smaller and have like one person take on like large chunks of things. So then it's, in my brain, it was like, okay, well, if we have one person doing this, it's probably going to take this long. Are you okay with that? Like, how do you want to move forward with this? Should we bring on another person? Shouldn't we extend our timeline further out? So it's a lot of planning and then replanning, and then, you know, giving up on the plan for a minute and then going back and trying to plan again. And especially on a project like this, where there were a lot of people, you know, doing work after hours. You do have to think constantly, like, someone might not come through, you know, like someone might take too long, or, you know, maybe they said they could do 4 shots and now they can only do 1 or something like that. So Frank will tell you, I was very much a contingency planner. I was always like, I want to have a backup and a backup for the backup and 3 more backups past that. So that if and when these situations happen, which they totally did, and understandably so, that we were ready for it and that it didn't stop us from working.
Awesome. Do you want to get the next one, or there's one for Frank in the chat?
Yeah, I got the next
Frank.
one.
Got it?
Okay.
So, Danny says, "Hey, Danny, I don't know if you're still here or if you passed out. In the trailer, I remember Mother was pushing the wheelchair and gave a kiss to Grandpa. In there, the set was inside of the house, but in the actual film, the set was changed outside. Was it changed on purpose, or the set was supposed to be inside the house but changed to different story context? So I guess maybe early version versus the version that you guys had ended up with. Maybe kind of like what those story differences were.
Yeah, so in the actual story, or I guess I'll start with the trailer. So in the trailer, you know, we just wanting to paint the picture for, you know, this kind of life that the grandfather's living. You know, that's why everything is interior. You know, we weren't gonna you know, have a bunch of set work done for the trailer, you know, when we're trying to get money. But you know, we thought we could sell the idea with it all being in one place. You know, that this is the situation. You know, and the grandfather's left alone, and also in the trailer, he's the one that opens the door and goes into the room, to the canvas but in the story, it's actually, his granddaughter. So just the story context for the overall short was different, but the situation was the same. So I was able to, reuse that animation I had done for the teaser and then just kind of change it a bit for the new setting. But yeah, the old repurpose.
That happens a lot. For Frank in particular, there's another question from James. The question has been asked, which I don't think it has. It has not. How do you balance work and being a parent? I must say that you have little ones. I feel the topic is not talked about enough. I agree.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Yeah,
man?
it's a tough it's a tough balance because like starting actually hold on, let me close my door real quick because my son left my door open. Hold on, that's one of the things.
Yeah, you're getting a live picture of what happened.
If you're James, you're seeing it live happening right now. Kylie's like, good example given. Yeah.
This is every time. Yeah. This is Frank, the super father.
Totally. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's a tough balance, seriously, because for one, you have the demands of work and you have the demands of home, and you're like, one of them they have to give and take from each other. So with that,
Hold that thought, everyone.
Yeah, hold on.
This is how you do it. You you go back and forth. You multitask.
Yeah, I will say Frank was an absolute rock star throughout all of this and had a newborn who is not a newborn anymore. But I've always wondered that too. Like, how do you do it? Do you have someone, like secretly doing everything?
That would be his wife, probably.
Yeah, definitely Ashley a lot.
Tell you there's women behind the man and they're not lying. Or it could be, same it could be the man behind the man, whichever. But in this case, it is a woman behind the man.
It's a there's a lot of support at home when it comes to the work I have to do outside of home. But it's one of those things where I kind of switched my whole thought process behind work. It was because I'm providing for a family now, so it's more than just myself. So that comes about even with things that I choose to work on. Wanting it to be something that I really care about, because I need to justify it for myself if I'm putting a lot of time into it, what it's all for. And she's just waking up. She's like, what planet am I on?
I know, she just woke up.
But it's
like
the balance of it is like working on canvas. What I had to do was you want to see Mom? What I had to do was I had to choose to work at night after they went to sleep. So, and it was accepting those little wins that I had. So whether I got to work for an hour or work for 30 minutes, it was like, okay, that's still progress toward the goal. So it's just kind of switch around those
you're still giving up something. You're giving up some sleep.
Right. Yeah.
It's there's a lot to balance there. I mean.
Yeah. I'm gonna hand it to your mom real quick.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Well, let's see. There was a question about budgets. Let's ask that one because Paige, your
budget.
So it says, how did you plan? This is from Evelyn. So we're going to jump to this just because I think it'll be easier for you to start on this one. So how do you plan for budgets and getting artists for the film? Knowing you're using Kickstarter to get money for the project, how do you then manage that along with all the people involved?
Yeah, so before we launched the Kickstarter, we took a look at everything left to do in the film, and we based our ask for the Kickstarter on that. It was, I mean, if I had a dream amount I could ask for. It would have been like triple that. But
you asked for the minimum you thought you guys would need?
We wanted to aim for definitely just something like really attainable. That was important to us, and we were like, okay, if we had this much, we could definitely get it done, and like we'll figure it out. And we had already, at least had the characters done, and we had some set work done. So we were like, okay, I think this will definitely get us to the finish line. So even after that, like, it was definitely one thing that I had on my mind in the beginning was rendering, which is incredibly expensive. So I think that was definitely hard. So I think every time, like, it's something you have to constantly reevaluate. There was no like, okay, we got this money, like we're good to go. It was, like, okay, we've gotten through these 6 shots. Where are we at? What do we have left to do? Can we scale back? Like, we originally said we want 5 people doing this. Can we scale back to 2 for budget purposes? So yeah. And did that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. And I think what people they're actually like in the comments going, oh, a budget question, because I think people don't generally hear about this part. But with animation, especially when you're going in to try to budget and figure out, and that's what I did the most, right? I was a line producer on films, and it's like a moving target. So you're always like, this is our projection, this is our actual, we need to change that because of the creative. It's not like live action where you have, and you probably had a script, Frank, don't get me wrong, that was like, okay, I'm ready to rock and roll. We've got storyboards. Generally, when we're making films, it isn't always that way. We don't always have a script. We're starting and rewriting all the way through. But in live action, they absolutely have to have a script because you have to be building all of those sets, and it's different than when you're building everything by hand. Every individual artist, technical person, production person, the entire team is doing it hands-on, even if they're in their respective homes. And there's always some gotcha, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It pushes you like, oh, wow, okay, well, that's an incurred cost then, or are you gonna love the one you're with, director, which is always a question I would ask my guys if we were getting low on money, is like, it's this or this. You can spend the money on this if you really want to get this shot changed, but then may not be able to get that down the line. And where do you want to spend your money, right?
Yeah.
Those conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the exterior shots in the short where where grandfather's outside, we had just finding those ways of like, some of the things that we were able to cut back on was like things. This is why when I talk about my education, I can't fully down the education I got that wasn't what I needed for animation, because I learned to be more well-rounded, and so that stuff came into play here, even though I was upset about it at the time, and I went to Animation Mentor because I was like, man, I don't even know how to animate yet. But even though I just spent 3 years at this place, but anyway, some of those things came in handy when you're making stuff yourself, because then it's like, okay, well, I can just take that hit. Like, okay, we need this pond. We need this pond that's in this shot. Crap, we gotta pay an effects artist to do some water and stuff. You're like, okay, well, no,
Nope. Frank's
I'll
gonna
just create
some
this.
water.
I created a plane, just a plane that was subdivided, and then used some deformers on in multiple positions to make it look like water. So, and then had the guy texture it to make it look like it was a water texture, and then same thing with the foliage. So within Maya, I remember playing with paint effects, for instance. It's like, okay, well, let's populate this ground with some grass and little flowers and get some trees in there and stuff. And so I was like finding some of those things where you can. It's good that it's good if you can wear multiple hats creatively sometimes, because then I'm sure Monica, you guys go through this as well, with having artistic backgrounds, and it's with Clay being having those 2D roots too, jump in on boards or
absolutely,
even design stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, that on the Christmas Chronicles, he actually drew over every elf shot and basically did, help them to animate, because it was a visual effects house, right? And they were used to doing creature stuff. So you didn't need to do that really on the reindeer, but on the elves, absolutely, because they're more character people. So yeah, you jump in where you've got to, and you I don't want to say compromise, because that always makes people feel, but it's a little bit of that. You make choices, but that's a beautiful. And when you can do something like that, where it doesn't, you're like, you know what, we don't need to spend big money on this, and you can solve it the way you just verbalized. I'm like, damn, that is brilliant. Very smart, you guys. Very smart. There's another production question, so maybe I'll ask that, and then I bet Bobby will go to the beautiful film question. So Sydney wants to know, how did working remotely and on spare time affect the speed of production? Did you have a timeline of when you wanted to have a finished film, or did you just let things develop on their own?
Yeah. So we did have a timeline of when we wanted to finish, which is what I based our schedule off of. But realistically, I also knew that people working from home who have, demanding day jobs, which a lot of people on the project did, that it would definitely slide out, which it did, but not by that much, actually. And I think I got lost in what I was saying.
Like you did have a plan. You're saying
we did have a plan. We did.
So I think to answer that question, any producer is going to have a timeline. We generally answer them. We don't normally not have a timeline. We just are very flexible, and we try to put a little cushion, right?
Yeah, I think we had our big kind of deadline we were aiming for, and then it kind of naturally developed from there, if that makes sense. Like a lot of checking in with where people were, and then kind of seeing it stretch out. But it was in a natural way. And I think especially for a project like this, you can't it was hard to put too many boundaries around it, especially because people were Frank just told you all he does not sleep, so
I know.
Oh yeah, no, he doesn't. Yeah,
awesome, cool.
Yeah,
thank you.
I can hit the next one from our girl Kylie. What up, Kylie?
Hey.
Pew pew pew. Beautiful film, she says. And we touched on this a bit, but how was it making such an in-depth short film while juggling full-time day work and a family as you hold kids in your hand with every meeting that we do? How did you plan the production timeline with everyone working and having different life priorities, including yourself? And that's a loaded question that you can talk about for 4 hours, but I'm interested to see that, to hear this too.
Yeah, we can team it.
We talked about different aspects of that, about how you had to work instead of sleeping and stuff. But I do think talking about what were your expectations of people, that might be a good thing to talk about, knowing, right? Because I think that's a little bit more in depth. Normally a person can do X footage a week, and we can't expect that with a normal job and family.
That was something we talked about a lot, which was because there's the number side. Are you guys hearing static?
No, you're good.
No, there is a sound.
Yeah, I hear a little staticky sound.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Is it because you took your headphones off?
I took them off because it was happening earlier too.
Oh.
Well, let me. I'm gonna. Maybe Paige, you can answer some while I.
You can check on your sound. Paige, go for it. Just about your expectations.
Expectations, yeah.
How quickly people could work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we talked a lot with people, when they came on, I try to give them a deadline, and they'd kind of tell me I've got this coming up, or I've got to crunch at work. So it was mostly a lot of communication, honestly, a lot of just checking in with people a lot and saying like, hey, we would like love to have this by this date, but how are you feeling? What do you think is actually possible? Whereas like kind of in a studio environment, you're like thinking about things more in terms of like footage or, you know, you have X amount of weeks to do something. It wasn't like that for us. Like we couldn't say, okay, we're giving you this amount of weeks, because then we'd probably like realistically need to have more people working, or we'd have someone like start something and then not be able to finish it. And that was definitely not what we wanted. So yeah, just a lot of checking in. We definitely didn't make people feel like pressured when they came on. We just, yeah, a lot of communication.
And I think that's key. I don't think people realize the amount of good communication that's necessary, that's required when you're working, not just remotely, but you're not working for the same company where there's other people to catch things. Let's see.
Right.
If it's sounding, Frank.
Okay, let's see. Is it any better?
I don't hear it.
You can hear, right?
I heard it.
I can hear it.
Oh, really? Oh, maybe. Is it me?
No, it's Frank, because it was gone when Frank was gone. No offense, Frank.
Oh, I don't hear any feedback. Anyway.
Yeah, so
Weird.
Just type all of your answers in the chat, Frank.
let me see if I
don't hear anything.
if I switch.
Feels like a mic issue. I don't know why.
Yeah.
What about this? Yada yada.
Still there.
That's even worse.
Oh, weird. I don't hear anything. It must. I don't know what this is on.
I should ask. So let me ask the chat. Can you guys, 70 people, can you hear the feedback or not? Can someone answer?
Is this?
That was a lot of yeses. That was,
Yeah.
Oh, I don't hear the feedback at all. That's so weird.
Is this better now? I switched my mic to my headphone mic.
That's better.
okay.
Okay.
Sounds like a digital fart. Alicia's right on. It did.
It might be from my mic.
No, we're good. It's better.
So I switched from my computer mic to my headphone mic, but yeah, just I think just being there's just the understanding factor of especially being on the side of you know, knowing how it is, you know, having family and trying to do these things, you know, it's one of those things where like for me, my typical like pattern is, okay, I'm at work all day, and wife is with the kids all day by herself. So when I get home, it's like, okay, well, that's why when I have meetings outside of my work, you know, I'm like, okay, well, they can be in my office and, you know, we'll try to make it work. You know, it's finding that balance. So it's not just, you know, plus me growing up without a father around, it's one of those things where I want to be present. So I, you know, when I'm around, you know, I want to be around. I don't want to. It's different in the pandemic because when, you know, having to work at home, and that's something they have to get used to. But yeah, it's like it's knowing. I guess knowing where those priorities are in yourself, and also people. So not just thinking of the artist as, you know, a cog in the wheel, a cog in the machine to try to crank something out. It's like, okay, well, this cog has you know, each of these teeth, you know, has its own you know, things they have to take care of, you know, along the way. And, you know, so that was where, you know, I don't know if Paige touched on this, but, you know, we would kind of get into that stuff, you know, whenever we would, you know, cast someone things, or, you know, Paige would ask, or I would ask, like, did we ask, does this seem like it's too short term to, you know, should we give them a little extra buffer, you know, or, you know, but, you know, just it's I think it just boils down to thinking of the, you know, your artists on a team like as what they are, or people, you know, and we have lives outside of this one thing. So
Mm-hmm. Well, Nessa asks, quite a bold question, one that you may or may not answer. How much money? How much money went into this project? Is that able?
Ooh, it's. I
I'm
mean,
gonna
it's
let
hard to
Frank answer
even.
that one.
That's hard. That's hard to even say because there, aside from Kickstarter, there's like out of pocket stuff like
Somebody goes,
throughout and like from both ends. So it's but
it's not rude to ask. It's just not something that people can always disclose because sometimes the studios don't like to discuss that. And if they end up picking up some of the bill, I mean, they could probably talk about the Kickstarter. You could probably say how much you raised via Kickstarter because that they could find out maybe. And you don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's listed on the Kickstarter. But I mean, I honestly, I don't even know because like I was saying, like I pitched and stuff, Paige pitched and stuff. Like it's yeah, it was all just a race trying to get it done. So it was like some of that, you don't even fully pay attention to it. It's just like, okay, this is needed. We need to do this. We need to get this. So
Yeah. I feel like I think we raised $63,000 from Kickstarter, and then there were definitely costs outside of that.
What did you guys ask for? Did you ask for 63 or did you ask for less?
45.
No, we asked for 45.
40?
Yeah, 40 or 45. I'm
those.
trying to get to the Kickstarter page, and I'm
That's awesome. If you asked for 40 or 45 and ended up getting 63, that's very exciting. So just to give Nessa and people watching a sense, like that's, how long is the short? How many minutes?
9 minutes.
9 minutes, and it was more than $63,000 because,
Yeah,
more
the
costs
sizes along the way.
Easily, yeah.
So that helps you because, you can divide that by the number of minutes and go, wow, that's what 1 minute of this type of animation costs doing it outside of a studio system. Just know that generally, if you're doing something like that at a big animation studio where they have all the overhead and everything, it's pretty easy to say that 1 minute of animation can be $1 million with the entire. So I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. At least at some studios, I think Angry Birds was like 80 million. They just tend to be that, and they end up being like an 85 to 90-minute movies. So.
Yeah, I think Frank was saying we had a shoestring budget, but I was trying to think of the word for the end of the shoestring, like the little plasticky part. That was our budget.
It's an eyelet. What is that?
Yeah, it's like there's like a specific word for it that I can't think of.
Aglet. Nice, Nessa.
Yes. I didn't know that.
Yes.
How do people know that? And why is there a name for it?
That holds a place in your brain.
I don't have one on my switch, but I get nervous and I try chewing on them.
Amazing.
That's
Oh
funny.
my God.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Phoenix and Ferb.
Yeah.
3 questions left. Let's do them.
Yeah. So Alex, my boy Alex Chisley. What's up, Alex? He was one of my first mentees. He asks, do you feel like there's a bias when it comes to being a supportive male parent? And when I read that, I was like, in what way do you think, Alex? And I'm assuming.
Well, I think he must. I'm imagining he means bias, like when you're in the workplace, and thinking as a male, like, do you get any bias from people going, well, I want to be a good parent as a father? Is that what you mean? Workplace bias, yeah.
Workplace bias. Okay,
Yeah, that's
got
what
it.
it means.
Workplace bias.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be men just worked all hours, and if you were a woman, there was definitely bias. Like, I've got a kid at home, I've got to leave earlier, and people gave you some shit.
Yep.
Yeah, I experienced that working in games. I didn't even have kids yet, but just the fact that for one, wasn't getting paid overtime and working 12-hour days for 6 months crunching. It was a point. It was like I have a life outside of this, and not wanting to keep doing this to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, but not wanting to just keep doing this and not having much to show for it. Like, I gotta have some bit of normalcy, like, and it depends on where you're at. There's some people that I've experienced in those positions where maybe they're single or they don't, I don't know, I don't know what the situation is, but I've had those things happen where they it's like a question of you not being passionate enough or something. And it's like, you don't realize the better I take care of myself, the better my work is going to be. So like, what do you want? You want me to train my, that's one of the things in production when when we stopped working Sundays or something when I was at Disney or something, it's like the you're going to be more productive when you come back, more refreshed than, just like cranking away 7 days, it's like, but I do think as a male, I don't know if I've experienced it necessarily in that way. But just in general, just as a parent, I think, because I've seen it, I've seen it happen to women. I guess maybe not as often. There may be some more understanding on that front, because I have had experiences where it's kind of like, someone would expect like, oh, well, your wife is there, it's like, well, she's there all day with the kids, it's like, and people don't know what that's like unless they experience it, like even just with one, and now with two, like it's the demands are insane, and
and gender roles are changing. They really are changing. I mean, I don't like to quote Sheryl Sandberg, but the whole idea of like, if you want to stay at home and be a stay-at-home parent, whether it's a mom or a dad, you should be able to be supported doing that, and it shouldn't fall to one or the other. Like, just say I'm a parent, not I'm a mom, and what the connotation is that comes with that. But it is against the law. Just want to make sure I verbalize, at least in the United States, to have bias against anyone or discriminate because they have kids. People, if they're hiring you, should not be asking you if you're pregnant or planning to have kids, and nothing like that. Like it shouldn't be. But I'm not going to lie to you, I never had kids. And part of that was the pressure of knowing that the type of hours we work in production, I didn't think I'd be able to be a good enough mother. And I couldn't do my job, and I just couldn't. There were women that did it and they were amazing, but not me. Plus I raised my own mother, so I'm like, I'm good. That was a good question.
I like the sniff after that. My animator, I lock away these things. Yeah, Monica has a lot of good.
Well, there's a question that somebody asked about that. So that's awesome. That's the next question from Luke Valencia. Frank, can you tell us how was the experience of passing from animating to directing? And I do give you a lot of stuff. I know I could give it to Clay too. I can't help it. I'm very animated. Paige, like, I don't even know this woman, and she is animated.
No, you're great. I love it.
What was that like?
I think it was. It felt like it was a great transition. It was an easier transition going from animator, because I felt like, I mean, not that I have anything to compare it to, but just feel like, because when we're as an animator, we're already thinking about performance on the screen, and we're thinking about where our shots fit in the story. So we're looking at, I mean, well, we should be thinking beyond our shot, but how it fits into the sequence and all the parts together, and so I feel like transitioning to directing, it was on that side that felt comfortable. I'd say when it came to like music or these areas that were a little further from where I was, kind of leading up to this, I was, when I was at Pixar, I was taking classes at the studio to learn about these other pieces of the puzzle, just to know how Pixar does it in their pipeline, and talking to people about music and how reaching out to other directors and how they approach music in their films and stuff. So those other areas where I didn't feel as comfortable, with like driving something, it was just a matter of talking to people and finding out that not everyone has the answers, and you're kind of, I mean, that's why we work in teams, because it's not just about one person having all the answers. And so, you know, reaching out to people and talking to people about their experiences directing, that was enlightening for me in that transition, to know that, you know, I'm not alone in my insecurities in other areas. And so, yeah, I think overall there's some parts that felt like home, and there are some parts where, you know, I needed to get that extra, yeah, and talk to some folks that have done it. And you know, that's I think what everyone has done. I mean, I'm sure Bobby could speak to it as well. And you know, it's
Clay from animation.
Yeah.
All of you guys, it's like that. I would almost say it's not that different from when you're doing a role and you get promoted and you see other people doing things. You may not have experienced all of them, and you sometimes just learn while you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and it's enlightening too, to know that, you know, and not everyone goes into it with this, like, you know, pure confidence. Like there is that bit of something there. I still remember when Clay left, actually, and I remember he mentioned directing, like, maybe some commercials or something beforehand, and
right.
And there was you know, because I was wondering what that transition was like. Like, I was wondering what that, you know, how he was feeling going into it, and you know, so it was nice, you know, like it's a big undertaking, but, you know, it's like you got to take that leap of faith where you're, you know, trusting yourself, and yeah.
It totally read my mind. It's taking that leap and having faith in yourself. And, you know, somebody was asking a related question, which I, you know, basically, is being an animator disadvantageous wanting to direct a film, and it's not. It's just about being able to do storytelling and understanding all the different disciplines. So I think being married to an animator and I was in animation as a production supervisor, and seeing people grow up. I mean, generally you can come from anywhere, right? Character design, you know, Bobby's done character design, environments, animation, he's directed. You know, people come from story, you have writers, you have animators, effects. Marlon West now directing his own short, and should have been doing it a long time ago, but can't wait for that to come out.
Drum medal.
I know, right? All right, go Bobby, last question.
All right,
wrap it up.
I'll start this with Paige, but it says for everybody. So for those days where you've been mentally exhausted, I'm in there, James, to do anything for your projects or whatever reason, what do you do? What do you do for yourself in your own time to stay encouraged and keep going? And this is a great ending question. Sorry.
And go.
That's a really good question. I think everyone has bad days, you know. I think I get to a point where if I'm having a bad day or feeling bad about like a project and feeling like maybe we're not gonna finish this or whatever. I never told Frank when I felt like that, but I definitely felt like that at times on canvas.
Yeah, it's daunting sometimes, right?
Yeah, totally. Like when you can't quite see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you will, as long as you keep going. Like Frank was saying, like put 10 minutes into it during, you know, at night or whenever you can, and you'll get there. Like you have to keep reminding yourself like why you're doing what you're doing, and I think that's what I try to do. And when that doesn't work, then I just like do a little online shopping, and that seems to fix it.
Treat yourself to a nice meal. I don't want to say have a drink, because that people might get the wrong impression, but sometimes I might have a glass of wine or
maybe have a little glass of wine, maybe, you know. Buy a nice sweater online.
I mean,
retail therapy. Don't make it an addiction, people. No addiction.
Yeah, no addictions. But
to your point, Paige, I think like you know, it's funny, like when we talk to mentees and that kind of stuff, there's kind of a feeling that when you become a professional, it kind of goes away. But that feeling never goes away. Never goes away. So even when you guys break into the industry, you'll, I mean, like, right? I mean, like, it doesn't end. I mean, like, you'll still feel that sort of.
Yeah.
There's never feeling like you're good enough. It's the whole imposter. What is that? Imposter
Syndrome.
Never goes away.
Imposter syndrome never goes away. I mean, I would say the only time it goes away is when you've mastered what you're currently doing. Like, I don't feel like an imposter as a producer because I've done it for so long now. But I remember when I was a prod soup wanting to be a production manager and I first got I was like, you know, that's when you feel it. Is every time you take that next step, so you have to remind yourself, that's just natural.
Yeah. I would say too, like, along the lines of like taking those next steps, like it's totally okay to make mistakes. Yes. I make mistakes all the time and it's fine. Things still get made, like the movie goes on, you know? And I think like just giving yourself a break and like it's okay to like have a moment, but then you know, it's okay.
Own it, learn from it, and move on.
Yeah.
That's what I always say is own it, learn from it, move on.
I think every time I share something online, there's that you know, same. I've talked about this before too. When you show things in dailies, or you know, there's always that feeling that's like still, you know, like Bob was saying, it never goes away. That nervous, because you're I think with art you're putting a piece of yourself out there, and so you're like it's vulnerable, and it's but you know, I think though that's where the magic is in storytelling, is, you know, allowing people to get a glimpse into that window, into who you are, because that's where they can see themselves potentially. And so yeah, it took me a while to kind of get there in the beginning, because it was like, you know, not knowing, you know, especially being a black animator in some of these studios where I was one of very, very few, if not the only one. It was always kind of wondering what people thought of me, or like, or feeling like there's this magnifying glass on everything that I'm doing, good or bad, you know. And it's like, just want, you know, because there's plenty of times where I felt like there's times I would get notes on something, but someone else has gotten, you know, has done something, the same thing, but they didn't get the note
The same
that
way
allowed to them. Or yeah, and it was like, well, you know, there's you know, favoritism that goes, you know, especially with seniority. You know, I think there's, if someone with more experience was to do something, you know, it's like, oh, that's great, yeah, blah blah, and they'd probably go fix it on their own later without saying anything.
Right.
And it's like, no, we're all there to do a job. And but
that's like egos and stuff too. So you're actually covering two really important pieces for, I think, for our community to realize, is that sometimes when you're in something and the higher up you get, the more people stop telling you the truth about it, because they are afraid you're going to get offended, and how's it going to be. And then I do think there's a whole thing with the Black community, like, you know, you hear our first Black president talk about like how the amount of pressure being put on him and his family to act a certain ways if they're representing the entire culture, you know. So that I think that's something that's put upon, and it's horrible, and it's but I am so grateful for you that you shared that, because it's like that, being a woman. Oh
yeah, and all that stuff puts you, you know, it puts pressure on you, and it makes you put pressure on yourself too, because and so but you know, and that stuff can make you sink down in a hole, and you can keep yourself in that hole, or you can, you know, kind of take control over where you want to go in your career, or what you want to do with your art. So, you know, I feel like the further you progress, the more, I guess, you build up this like, who gives a shit kind of feeling. You know, it's like, I'm gonna be in control of what I do with my art, or where I want to go, and not care about, you know, how someone else feels about it, because at the end of the day, they're not the ones taking care of my family. They're not the ones, you know, XYZ. And so,
My mother
yeah,
has a saying, and you just said it, but slightly differently. She'd say, Monica, do they pay your bills? And I'd say, Chewbacca, no. I'd say, no, they don't. She'd say, well then, if they want to tell you what to do and they're willing to pay all your bills, then you listen.
there you go.
So on that, any last thoughts that you guys want to share on this panel with, because we're close to, we're
Yeah.
ending, and any last parting thoughts for your public?
I just
Tell
wanted to say
your stories.
Congratulations again, Frank and Paige and the whole Canvas team. And I'll let you guys speak and have the parting words. But you guys did it! Freaking Netflix, man!
We did it!
Holy moly! Freaking Netflix!
We did it!
Holy!
My goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Paige. If you have something, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, just like keep going. Don't let anything stop you. And if you feel like you're not ever getting what you need when you're working, like go out and make your own story. Like you know, like Frank did. Go out and get the experience you want, and don't let anyone stop you. Just keep pushing.
Here's my baby.
I think that's what it boils down to.
Congratulations, Frank.
Thanks, man. Oh,
I want to pet the dog.
look at Clayton's beard.
Oh.
Look at that beard.
That's that's Paige, the producer of Canvas. Come say hello. Later. Sorry. Should we
No, we did
that better?
I echo that. Just say do what you tell your story. That's I think the bottom line is to tell your story, because your voice matters, your experience matters. Find a way to get it out, because you have something special in how you interpret the world, and I think everyone can find some bit of hope and peace within themselves, knowing that they're not alone and that we have some of the same experiences. You know, we all go through these losses, we all have these traumas, and we all, you know, sometimes feel alone and trying to climb out of it. And that's one of the things that I wanted to do with Canvas, is create this film to show that, you know, we have these things, but we don't have to go through it alone. You know, there's friends, family, whoever that we can, you know, pull around us if we just allow them to be there.
Well, my closing thought's just going to be to the community to remember that it's a very hard industry. It's very competitive, just like acting is, animation is, and you can't be discouraged. You could get 100 no's, you want that one yes. So just keep going, because sometimes I get discouraged as well, and I've been doing this for over 25 years. I just look really young, and you know, it's and it can be, you know, it can be hard. So, you know, sometimes you get that disappointment. I just got a no on a film, and you know, you give yourself a day and you're like, you feel, you know, you let yourself feel it. And then you go and you kind of rise up and you're like, okay, today's a new day. Let's make the next one happen.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you
guys so much.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you all for coming.
On Netflix if you haven't already. But
share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Paige, Frank,
everywhere.
Great to see everybody. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna be spending Christmas alone in my apartment, but that's okay.
Oh, honey.
Because we're all going through it together. Wear masks, stay in, and
we can do a Zoom. We can do a Zoom.
We can do a Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're playing a Zoom. But it's great to see everyone's names, and stay safe, everyone. And thank you, panelists, for coming. And man, yeah.
Lovely.
We're community, guys. We're community now. So
yeah, we are.
We're doing it together. So
great to meet you, Paige.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you.
Frank, thank you guys so much. And
thank
you guys have a good night, okay? Everybody,
Bye.
stay safe.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Right.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.